For most of his life, his body was a weapon. Explosive speed. Impossible cuts. A man who could turn a 5-yard gain into an 80-yard touchdown before the defense even realized what happened. Now, that same body can't lift a coffee cup. And the voice you're about to hear him speak with isn't even coming from his own throat anymore. This is the story of Chris Johnson, and the disease that is taking everything from him, faster than anyone imagined possible. Rewind to 2009. Nashville, Tennessee. A young running back for the Titans is doing something nobody in the NFL had done in years. He's tearing through defenses like they're standing still. By the end of that season, he'll rush for 2,006 yards, one of the rarest numbers in football history. Only a handful of men have ever crossed 2,000 yards in a single season. Chris Johnson is one of them. They start calling him CJ2K. He's not just fast. He's one of the fastest men to ever step onto an NFL field. 3 trips to the Pro Bowl. A single season record for yards from scrimmage. The Associated Press names him Offensive Player of the Year. For a few golden years, it feels like nothing can touch him. 10 seasons. 3 teams. The Titans, the Jets, the Cardinals. Over 11,000 combined yards. 55 touchdowns. He retires in 2017, the way most athletes hope to. On his own terms, with his legacy already carved into the record books. He becomes a husband, a father of 4. Life moves forward the way it's supposed to. Then, just over a year ago, something small happens. Something so small that almost nobody would think twice about it. Chris Johnson notices his grip isn't quite right. His right hand feels weaker than it should. For a man who spent a decade absorbing hits from 300-pound linemen, weakness in a hand barely registers as a warning sign. His wife, Brittany, chalks it up to years of football wear and tear. Maybe a pinched nerve. Maybe an old injury finally catching up with him. That's the story people tell themselves when the alternative is too frightening to consider. But the weakness doesn't go away. It doesn't stay in his hand. It spreads. Doctors run tests. And then, the word nobody wants to hear enters the room. ALS. Amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. Lou Gehrig's disease. A disease that quietly attacks the nerve cells controlling muscles, until the body can no longer move, speak, swallow, or eventually, even breathe. There is no cure. There is no history of it in his family. No injury that explains it. No warning that could have prepared him. His doctors call it sporadic ALS, which, chillingly, is how the vast majority of cases begin. No family history required. No specific cause. It can happen to anyone. It happened to him. Picture that moment. A 39-year-old man who spent his entire career being told his body was one of the most dominant athletic instruments in the sport, sitting across from a doctor who tells him a medication might buy him a few extra months. That he and his wife should start getting their affairs in order. There is no script for that conversation. No amount of toughness built on a football field prepares a person to hear that their own body has turned against them, and that the clock is now running. He would later describe it simply. Shock first. Then a choice. Give up, or fight. He chose to fight. But here's what makes this story even more painful. The speed of it. ALS doesn't move at the same pace for everyone. For some, it creeps. For Chris Johnson, it sprinted. Just over a year before going public, he was still able to scoop up his 7-year-old daughter so she could blow out her birthday candles. By the time he sat down for his first television interview about the disease, he couldn't do that anymore. He couldn't hold a cup on his own. He needed a machine to speak the words he wanted the world to hear. In one of the cruelest twists imaginable, the man once known for blinding, uncontainable speed is now living with a disease defined by the speed at which it steals a person's control over their own body. Knowing his voice would eventually be gone, Johnson made a decision. Before ALS could take it completely, he recorded his own voice, hours of it, so that the speech-generating device he now relies on could speak in a voice that still sounds like him. When he talks to the world now, it is technology reading his words back in his own recorded tone. A small act of defiance against a disease trying to erase him. There's another thread running through this story, one that connects Johnson to someone else who once wore the same uniform. Years earlier, a former Titans linebacker named Tim Shaw had been diagnosed with the very same disease. Shaw had already been living with ALS for over a decade by the time Johnson received his diagnosis. The two men, once teammates, found each other again. Not on a football field this time, but in a fight neither of them chose. Shaw would later say that Johnson's attitude, his refusal to sink into survival mode, actually pulled him out of his own routine. A man who had been fighting ALS for 12 years said a rookie to this disease had somehow given him fresh hope. Johnson also found strength somewhere unexpected. In a story he watched unfold on television, an interview featuring a doctor who had been treating another public figure through his own battle with ALS. That interview led Johnson and his wife to reach out to that same doctor, one of the leading ALS researchers in the country. From there, Johnson entered a clinical trial, searching not just for more time, but for answers that could help the next person who hears this same diagnosis. There's another thread running through this story, one that connects Johnson to someone else who once wore the same uniform. Years earlier, a former Titans linebacker named Tim Shaw had been diagnosed with the very same disease. Shaw had already been living with ALS for over a decade by the time Johnson received his diagnosis. The two men, once teammates, found each other again, not on a football field this time, but in a fight neither of them chose. Shaw would later say that Johnson's attitude, his refusal to sink into survival mode, actually pulled him out of his own routine. A man who had been fighting ALS for 12 years said a rookie to this disease had somehow given him fresh hope. Johnson also found strength somewhere unexpected. In a story he watched unfold on television, an interview featuring a doctor who had been treating another public figure through his own battle with ALS. That interview led Johnson and his wife to reach out to that same doctor, one of the leading ALS researchers in the country. From there, Johnson entered a clinical trial, searching not just for more time, but for answers that could help the next person who hears this same diagnosis. When he finally decided to share his story publicly on national television, Johnson made something clear. He wasn't doing it for sympathy. He said he wanted people to understand exactly how fast this disease can attack a body that, only a year earlier, looked as strong as ever. But more than that, he wanted the world to understand something deeper. That the disease had taken his physical strength, but it hadn't touched who he is underneath it. He said it plainly. He is still himself. Still thinking the same thoughts. Still dreaming. Still loving his family exactly the way he always did. He wanted people to stop seeing the wheelchair, the device, the visible disability, and start seeing the man who is still very much present inside it. Tributes poured in almost immediately. The Titans ownership released a statement promising to stand by him, calling his impact on the franchise permanent, not just for what he did on the field, but for who he was in the locker room and in the community. The Cardinals sent their support. So did the Jets, and the players' union he once belonged to. For a moment, the football world set aside rivalries and simply rallied around one of its own. And Johnson used that spotlight for something bigger than himself. He called on the NFL to invest more heavily in research, to keep protecting players not just for this generation, but for the ones still to come. Because ALS remains one of medicine's most stubborn mysteries. Scientists have studied possible links to physical activity and injury for years, without a confirmed answer. There is still no cure. Some treatments can slow it down. None can stop it. What makes this story land so hard isn't just the disease itself. It's the whiplash of it. One year, a man is working out daily, lifting his daughter into the air on her birthday. The next, he needs a machine to say her name. It's a reminder that the body we trust the most, the one that carried us through our best years, can turn on us without asking permission, without warning, without any history to explain why. Chris Johnson isn't asking anyone to feel sorry for him. He's asking people to pay attention, to understand that ALS doesn't care about championships, or records, or how fast a man once ran. It can find anyone. And in telling his story anyway, in letting the world watch him lose so much so publicly, he's already doing something few people ever get the chance to do. He's turning his hardest year into something that might help someone else survive theirs.